Hey guys, I hope everyone's doing really good. Looking forward to the bank holiday weekend here in the UK. It's go do your own research. You can't get rid of me this week. So, we have another true crime channel podcaster, not just accused, convicted of domestic violence. And he's got a history of it. And guess what? It's getting very little coverage. What a surprise. Yesterday, I was talking about the Jason Arday story and showing that some of the biggest publications in the UK had paid for adverts showing their content about him on the same day that he died, after they'd been hounding him for weeks and weeks because of an accusation that he'd possibly plagiarized a paper, an academic paper. Like, no one knew who he was. This guy today, this podcaster guy, because I know maybe people in the US probably don't know who he is, but you might have seen him because he's big. He comes up in the algorithm. James English. He had nearly 800,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. He has had guests on like Andrew Tate, who's currently in Miami in jail with his brother. His brother's been on there, Tristan, their best friend, that Jason guy who's friends with Trump, or Trump's son, Victoria Harvey has been on there telling her fantasy stories about how the girls, the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, were not being sex trafficked, and how Prince Andrew is innocent, and that picture with Virginia Roberts Giuffre is fake, which obviously it is not. And it's funny because Andrew Tate right now, this very day, is trying to say that everything he said on his Instagram and social media was all fake. So anyway, that's their excuse. They're like, oh, I was just saying that for the clicks. It's not real. Even Keefe D is doing it for the clicks and the money. But yeah, this guy has an actual history of DV. So yeah, let me just what was that I just posted? Okay, so yeah, this was, so the Daily Mail actually did a feature on him 2 weeks ago. I don't see any stories about it today. There is a few, like people have published stories about it, but they're really, really small. Most of the other channels I've seen talking about it have read out from the BBC, and the BBC have left out so much information. So that's why we're going to do a deep dive tonight. Right. I think this deserves the proper treatment. So the Daily Mail reporter 2 weeks ago wrote an article, and bear in mind, this case has been going on since 2025. I didn't know about it, but it does not surprise me. Because, like I said, at the beginning of the year, I think it was, I did a video about JLR Investigates, another huge channel that does true crime investigations in the US, accused of the same thing. And it's just so funny because these people are supposed to do true crime. They're supposed to be exposing crime. They're supposed to be exposing criminals to us, exposing corruption. And then when someone in their community is convicted of something, they're like, oh, no, that's a false allegation. No, not him. No, he's sound. He's been set up because he's talking about this stuff. He's exposing the real people. You know, that's their sort of like, that's their narrative. So yeah, this article, which I'm going to read in a bit, said how podcaster James English went from dating Kerry Katona. So Kerry Katona was a pop star briefly. She was basically in a girl group called Atomic Kitten. And then after that, she just was like, I don't know. This is a reality kind of contestant, reality show. She did like reality shows, and basically her life was a car crash. She just gone out with so many. Even the guy she was dating before she went out with James English was reportedly beating her up. She's also had a long addiction problem going on, but her mum was an addict growing up, so she does have a pretty good excuse. So it says he's the podcaster who has amassed 500 million views and interviewed crime lord Daniel Kinahan. So Daniel Kinahan is this Irish gangster in a world exclusive before he was extradited from Dubai. Scotsman James English has amassed a cult following through his chart-topping world's most controversial podcast, Anything Goes. You see what they did there? Yeah, so that's just a little brief intro into who he is. And then I'm going to just quickly show you. So I dug up some old articles, which were all behind a paywall, so I can only show you the headlines. But in 2017, so this has been reported by at least 3 outlets that I can see in 2017. They've not been taken down, so I'm guessing he hasn't made a complaint. Kerry Katona's new boyfriend James English is reality TV star who assaulted a woman and spat in her face. Kerry Katona went public with her new romance this week. So this was in 2017. That was in OK. Then there was this one was in Closer. I mean, they're not exactly the high end of journalism, but you know, that's who writes about this stuff. And this is what I'm saying. Like yesterday, I was showing that the so-called credible newspapers are the ones paying for smear campaigns against Jason Arde. They're not talking about this. Kerry Katona's boyfriend, I'm just using her to get somewhere. Published on 6th of October 2017. Kerry Katona only recently confirmed her relationship with James English, and now it's been reported that he described her as effed up months after splitting with her husband, George Kay. That's her previous husband. Kerry Katona confirmed she had moved on with her new man. However, James English has now spoken out and said he's using her for fame and described her as effed up. Then there was another one that was, I think, in the Mail as well. It was in the Showbiz. That's the Mail, the Fail. Kerry Katona's new boyfriend, James English, once assaulted a woman and spat in her face in a McDonald's bus stop, as shocking violent past is revealed. 12 September 2017. Okay, so basically he went on a reality show. I don't know if this relationship was real or not. They were pictured together in the papers, but they already knew then that he was a domestic abuser. So this seems to be a pattern where reality shows have people like him on who are abusive to women, like at him and Andrew Tate. And they subject the other contestants on those shows to these guys. It's been going on for years. Meanwhile, there was a story the other day as well about, I can't remember what show it was now. Was it Love Island? one of those TV shows. No, was it Love Island? Or was it something at first sight? Married at First Sight? I can't remember. But there was a girl, and it was more than one girl. It was a whole load of girls, and they came out and they were basically saying, look, these shows are just, we're just being sex trafficked on these shows with abusive men. And that story just came and went like nothing, like no big deal. I think it was the same time that the Katie Price thing was going on, so that got much more airtime. Katie Price also has been on James English show as well, and she's friends with Kerry Katona, so it's obviously like a small little world. Right, so this story was in the UK Pulse 3 days ago, and it says podcaster James English convicted of domestic abuse against former partner. Podcaster James English has been convicted of domestic abuse against a former partner. So this is a different partner to that girl, because that was in 2017. That was a girl in McDonald's. The reason why I showed you that is because he's denying all of this. He's been convicted of domestic abuse against a former partner at Glasgow Sheriff Court. The 43-year-old, known for hosting the Anything Goes podcast with over 800,000 YouTubers. I guess that was subscribers. Was found guilty of a course of abusive behavior between July 22nd and November 2023. Right, so that's him. A Scottish podcaster and television personality has been found guilty of domestic abuse following a 12-day trial at Glasgow Sheriff Court. Found guilty in court. Do you know how hard it is to get a conviction? Following a 12-day trial at Glasgow Sheriff Court, James English, 43, from Larkhall, was convicted of engaging in a course of behaviour that was abusive toward a former partner between July 2022 and November 2023. So I've said this before, but in the UK, you can't look up court records. Well, I did actually try, but I got landed on some spam website that was like a casino. So that's why I look at a lot of American cases, because they show actual files uploaded to the docket, like evidence and stuff, and you can really follow how the legal process is coming along. With UK cases, you just have to go by reports that are written after the case happens, or sometimes they'll show like the judge giving a ruling on, I think Sky TV does it. The conviction came after the court heard evidence of repeated physical violence and threatening messages directed at the woman, who is a model and influencer. English gained public recognition through appearance on the Scottish reality television programme Glow, before establishing himself as host of the Anything Goes podcast, which attracts more than 800,000 RS on YouTube. The single is, does RS mean real subscribers? I don't know that one. The single charge against him encompassed 19 separate allegations, of which 6 were proven. One allegation was withdrawn by the Crown during the trial. According to court records, see, if you click on that, it takes you to a paywall article. Sentencing has been deferred pending the preparation of background reports. See, this is what I'm saying. Not one of the articles that I read earlier had brought up his previous records. I found those from doing my research. I don't think he had a conviction for those things, but it shows there was a history of him assaulting people in public. According to court records, sentencing has been deferred pending the preparation of background reports, with a hearing scheduled for the following month. English's bail was continued in the interim, so he's on bail at the moment. You know, he didn't even turn up for the sentencing. He was apparently out of the country. How the relationship began and escalated. So this is also interesting because this is really, really similar to what happened with JLR Investigates. Actually, I did a little list. I did a little list earlier because it's getting so crazy how many YouTube channels I've seen just from doing my own little channel that have been up to this stuff, this same method of abusing their own viewers, basically. So this is my little list. JLR Investigates, Ratchet TV. So Ratchet TV, he was outside the Diddy trial abusing another female content creator, and loads of other channels just stood there laughing and filming and live streaming it. Turns out that guy had a conviction for domestic abuse against a woman who he recruited from being one of his viewers and a mod on his channel. Andy Signal was sliding into the DMs of his audience, offering them money to come and have sex with him. He also got fired from his job for sexually harassing women at his previous company, fans of you know, like conventions that they would go to and stuff, and people that work there. And he came out on his YouTube channel and said it was all lies. He was falsely accused. But go and look at the court documents. It was never proved either way. Crazy Days and Nights. That happened a couple of years ago. Then there was Matt Fidesz, who pretends to be Michael Jackson's ex-bodyguard. I'm pretty sure he's got some kind of DV history, and he has a conviction for financial fraud as well. And then there was this other, speaking of Michael Jackson, there was another guy that I was showing on one of my live streams called Marga Jackson, who was scamming Michael Jackson fans, pretending to be his son. Actually, it was because I showed a news clip of him being caught doing that the video got taken down. So you know when they say, oh, they're coming after me because I'm exposing. No, it's not because of that. It's because of AI detecting copyrighted content, even though that thing I used was from like over 10 years ago. How did I know it was going to get me a copyright claim? And then another one who's actually friends with him and who is going to become part of the story is Sean Atwood. Sean Atwood recruited someone. I'm not even sure whether she was someone who watched his show, but he got into a relationship with someone who he said was a victim of sex trafficking, and he then used her for content on his show. And they were seen on camera doing drugs together. So yeah, it's becoming a bit of a familiar story. These are just the ones I hear about when I'm just minding my business. The court heard that the pair first made contact through social media in July 2022. The woman, who provided evidence remotely during the trial, described how English initially presented himself positively. I think he did a bit of love bombing, with the relationship progressing rapidly. The first instance of violence occurred when they were together in the early hours of the morning. After the woman declined to provide him with a cuddle, English kicked her off the bed. Distressed by this behavior, let me just 1 second, because there was another article that I had that had a bit more detail about that. It said that he actually kicked her into a wardrobe. This is what I'm saying, like, a lot of the reports were edited. They edited out some of the details, so it didn't look that bad, in my opinion. He kicked her off the bed, so she apparently that made her strike the wardrobe. So she got out of bed and went into the living room, indicated that she wanted to leave. He followed her into the living room approximately 5 minutes later, where he approached her on the sofa, seized her by the shoulders, forcing her to stand, and then pushed her forcefully against the wall with sufficient force to lift her feet from the ground. When asked by prosecutor Danielle Doherty to characterize English's demeanor during this incident, the woman stated he appeared angry. The trial established a pattern of physical violence. This was a 12-day trial. A pattern of physical violence spanning the relationship. On one occasion, English grabbed the woman by the neck and pinned her against a door. In another incident, he pressed his thumbs into her eyebrows, causing visible redness to the area. The woman also testified that English pulled her by the hair with sufficient force to cause her to lose her balance. She further described being struck across the face, which left redness on her skin. Beyond physical violence, the court heard evidence that English sent threatening and abusive messages to his victim. The woman discovered she was pregnant during the course of their relationship, though the trial did not elaborate on how this development affected the dynamics between them. Every single one of those people that I just read out on that list, this is what happened in those relationships, what the women described happening to them. What was the defense argument? Callum Weir, representing English, argued during closing remarks that the Crown's case did not meet the threshold of proof beyond reasonable doubt. He contended that the absence of photographic documentation of injuries undermined the credibility of the allegations, particularly given that the woman maintained an online presence. So I am going to look at the other side of this story, because he's claiming innocence, this guy. And I think what the technique, what they're using here, because he's come out and done a video. He's saying she made these allegations because she wanted to get free legal representation, and it was a custody situation that turned into a criminal one, which none of it, realistically, I think any woman that has been through this will tell you, sure thing, bud. Like, the courts are not on the women's side. That is a narrative that these men want you to believe. It's called Darvo. And for her not taking pictures, like, from what I can see, like, this was at the early stage of their relationship, so maybe she wasn't in a position to take a photo. She didn't have her phone out. There's a million different reasons why she didn't do that. It doesn't mean that it didn't happen, especially as he obviously does have a history of being violent and rough. And also, like, in domestic violence situations, men can start off like doing things like this, and then the violence can escalate as things go on, because he gets more comfortable. And the harassment and coercion that was sent, that he sent in text to her, like, obviously they've got evidence of that. She also, on one of the situation spoke to her brother, I think. So she had like someone who could corroborate that she had given an account of the story at the time. You know, all of these things, like, I don't need to tell you this. Like, this is what happens in court. That's why it takes 12 days. If this was if this was false allegations, case would have been thrown out. Also, another thing I wanted to say is when I first started my channel, well, not when I first started my channel, like maybe a few months in, I'm going back to like over a year ago. I had a guest on a few times, someone who works in the DV professional support space. And that was the first episode I did with her. I asked her about women making false allegations. I was like, this seems to be really happening a lot on YouTube. I'm like, does this happen at your place of work? And she said it was very rare that that would happen. She couldn't really think about any specific instances where it would happen. She wasn't like, oh my God, yeah, that happens all the time. All these women coming in, making false allegations, just trying to get money. She said in most cases, the women don't even want to go to the police. They just want to get away from the man. And they just want to try and figure out how they're going to support themselves, because in the majority of the situations, they are dependent on the man for money. He's got them in a situation where they're financially dependent on him. So they cannot leave. So they just think, well, okay, I guess he might get better, or they learn to adapt their behavior to try and not provoke him or trigger him. You know, they take on the burden of his problems. That is what a lot of women do. And that's what it looks like happened here. We're also highlighted inconsistencies in the victim's recollection of dates and timing for individual incidents, suggesting that the lack of specificity and visual evidence indicated the alleged violence had not occurred. It was disclosed that English held previous convictions primarily for road traffic offences. Sheriff David Hall delivered his verdict by finding English guilty on parts of the charge. In his judgment, the sheriff stated that he regarded the victim as both credible and reliable in his testimony. He noted that substantial evidence demonstrated the relationship between the parties had been intermittent and unstable throughout the period in question. According to the court's decision, the conviction was warranted based on the totality of evidence presented. So they obviously had evidence. Particularly, is this the one where I've got to find the other article, because there was another article I saw where he texted her things saying she was a slur, like called her fat. And this is apparently what he was doing to Kerry Katona as well, calling her fat and an S and a B, and saying she needed to get a job and stuff like that. So the police can use that. They can use that as evidence of abuse. So James English, 43, was convicted of domestic abuse against a former partner at Glasgow Sheriff Court during a 12-day trial. 6 of 19 allegations were proven. The abuse occurred between July 2022 and November 2023. English is known for appearing on the reality television show Glow. I had never heard of it, so it definitely wasn't known to me from being on that. It's like, if you say so, I have heard of the podcast. Sheriff David Hall found the victim credible and reliable, describing the relationship as intermittent and unstable. So, yeah, they've got a kid together as well. Sentencing is deferred pending background reports, with English's bail continued until the next court hearing. I'm just going to try and quickly see if I can... Okay, yeah, let me show you this. This was another article I found in the Glasgow Times. So this said, this was from May 2025, right? That's how long this case took to get to trial. It said, James English, 42, is claimed to have carried out the crime at a flat in Glasgow's Argyle Street between July 22 and November 23. A Scots podcaster may call up to 9 defence witnesses in a forthcoming domestic abuse trial at court heard. So, yeah, they've got the title there. James English may call up to 9 defence witnesses in Glasgow case. So this is what was going on in May. Among the 19 allegations are that English attacked the woman who is a model and influencer while she was pregnant. Oh yeah, I think this might be the right article. Sorry, I forgot. He is also claimed to have kept control of aspects of her life, including her money and contact with loved ones. English of Larkhall, Lanarkshire, shot to fame after he starred in reality TV show Glow. He is also the host of Anything Goes podcast, which has more than 700 subscribers. So he's gained another 100,000 subscribers since the trial started, or the case started. Sorry, the case got to court in May of 2025. But all those true crime channels didn't say anything about it. I don't remember seeing anything about it. I definitely would have clicked on it. English made no plea to the charge at a hearing today at Glasgow Sheriff Court. Linda Findlay defending. They always give you the defense story. Linda Findlay defending told the court, I have been told of 5 potential witnesses, defense witnesses, including a 15-year-old. I need to take statements from these witnesses. That is something that will take time. It cannot be done in 5 minutes. There is potentially another 4 witnesses in addition to the 5. With another hearing, we will be able to see how many defense witnesses there are. Prosecutor Juliana Keenan stated to the court that the Crown have 2 civilian witnesses and police evidence is agreed. The hearing was further told that English gave a no-comment interview to officers. The case was adjourned by Sheriff Michael Hanlon to a date at the end of the month. Court papers state English isolated the woman from her friends and family. He is claimed to have repeatedly contacted her by telephone and sent her threatening and abusive text messages. Another allegation says English repeatedly shouted and swore at her and uttered offensive remarks and threats of violence towards her. I knew I'd seen it. It is further claimed he criticised her choice of clothing and controlled what she wore. All of these things are what these kind of guys do. Controlling, insecure, egotistical, basically do drugs. One of the lads but deep down, they're very jealous and insecure people. English is also accused of repeatedly accusing her of being unfaithful. Projection. An allegation of violence includes kicking her on the body, causing her to fall off a bed. See? I knew I'd read it somewhere. An allegation of violence includes kicking her on the body, causing her to fall off a bed and striking an item of furniture, seizing her on the body and pinning her against the wall. English is also said to have searched her belongings for evidence of infidelity and monitored and interrogated her mobile phone for evidence of infidelity. I'm telling you, ask any girl who's been out with this kind of guy, this kind of like coked up, jealous, insecure guy. This is exactly what they do. English is claimed to have seized her by the neck, compressed it, and pinned her against the door when she was pregnant. He is further alleged to have seized her on the head and pressed his thumbs into her eyebrows to her injury when she was pregnant. You see, now that it's written like this, you see how much more detailed and accurate it sounds. Another claim is that English controlled the amount of money she had access to and repeatedly threatened to withdraw her access to it. English is stated to have driven her on a number of occasions to a train station and on attending there, drive her home. Huh? I don't know what that means. He stated to have driven her on a number of occasions to a train station and on attending there, drive her home. So he's driven her to the station and then driven her home, like as if he was threatening to leave her there. I'm not sure. It is claimed he also provided her with expensive gifts and money, thereafter demanded that she return them to him. English is alleged to have repeatedly threatened to remove a child from her care. I've been there. I've literally been there with this. Another claim is that English repeatedly criticised her abilities as a mother and refused to let her breastfeed in public. English is stated to have repeatedly demanded that she delete her social media platforms and restricted her use of social media platforms in an attempt to restrict her financial independence. You know when this came up as well? During the Diddy trial. Another violence, that's how P. Diddy was acting to one of his girlfriends. Another violence claim is that he seized hold of her by her hair and pulled her downwards, which caused her to lose balance. A further allegation says he struck her on the face with an open hand. Okay, so that was a much more detailed report from earlier on in the case. And I'm assuming that these 9 defense witnesses either didn't materialize or whatever they said didn't help his case. They didn't help prove that he was innocent. So do you want to know what Darvo is first? Because I hear this word all the time. So I thought, all right, let me look it up. Because I'm going to show you, yeah, he's done a video. He's done a video. Because no one can say, well, oh, what? Okay, I might have to come back to that. It's logged me out. Won't let me look at Facebook. Right, so yeah, I hear about this Darvo all the time, and I saw his video because someone had posted it on, guess where? LinkedIn. One of his fans had posted it on LinkedIn. God only knows why. Well, obviously because they want people on LinkedIn to think that he's not guilty, that he's been set up. Which is what I'm starting to think these true crime channels really exist for, because as I was showing yesterday as well, like there are these think tank lobbying propaganda media groups that are set up, and they target these kind of channels to do propaganda for them. He does propaganda for the Reform Party. I'm not being funny. Why else would Lady Victoria Harvey be on there? She is a campaigner for the Reform Party, which claims to be for the working class man. She's a flipping aristocrat whose dad was a criminal. She's a frigging cokehead as well. Like, it's just really mad when people use that as an excuse. Yeah, let me quickly see if I can get this Facebook video up. Right, we got to do the volume.
Side of the story. What I went through in the family court and then the criminal court. Look, the media are always going to print what they want. But thankfully, I have a big enough platform that I can have a say from my side. And I can tell you what the media didn't print. So I was in a very short relationship with someone who fell pregnant instantly. But while in this very short relationship, I had...
Fell pregnant instantly. How'd you get pregnant?
Holes punched in my wall. I had a knife stuck through my wall. And I had 25 grand stole. I had blocked this person while she was pregnant. Her and her mum reached out to my family to let them know my son was born. I still wanted to be a part of my son's life. Anyone who knows me knows I am a family man. Started building a relationship with my son for the first 3 months of his life. I was paying this individual £3,500 per month. Again, this is all in the criminal court documents. After 3 months, there was discussion of more money. I says no. I went away for work. As soon as I came back, there was no more contact with my son. There was no updates, no videos, no photos, and I couldn't see him. I went down the legal route. Bear in mind, there was never any police phone during this relationship or after it. Not until I was going through family courts. It was me who went down the legal route. I went down to the family courts, which then turned into a 3.5-year nightmare. So while going through family courts, you work with someone called Cafcass. Again, that's for a different story. So they do background checks, they do social work reports. I have 2 kids at 15 and 16. Not once has social work's ever been involved in their life. Background checks, check their convictions. I don't have...
I couldn't stop the video. It won't let me. It won't let me. Oh. It won't let me. It won't let me control the video. But I just wanted to stop it right there because he's doing Darvo. Darvo was identified by psychological professor Jennifer Freed in brief. When confronted with harmful behavior, a perpetrator may deny it happened, attack the person raising it, question their sanity, motives, or character. So what he did right there was he used his platform with nearly 1 million subscribers. She's anonymous. This is a family matter, as he just said. He's now gone to his public platform to put out his side of the story. And what was I going to say? Yeah. Him wanting custody and her saying, well, no, I don't want you to see the child because you've been violent towards me, or I don't want you acting like that around my kid, is what she thought was the best thing to do as a parent. And obviously, in order for the courts to understand that he's done that, she's had to make official reports. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, but he's just telling it from his point of view, to make it seem like, oh, she didn't say anything about it before until I wanted to see my child. Okay, so question their sanity, motives, or character, and then reverse roles by claiming they are the real victim. This 3-step switch is designed to derail accountability and confuse observers, including friends, professionals, and courts. In the UK, Darvo-type behaviour often sits alongside coercive or controlling behaviour. So obviously there were the texts that I said that he'd sent her, which called her FS. I'm not going to say the words, but you know what I'm trying to say, and the B word and other stuff like that. It wasn't in that article I just read out, but I've definitely seen it. Now a criminal offence in England and Wales. Recognising Darvo can help you and your lawyer evidence patterns of control more clearly. Even with these new laws, though, it's still incredibly difficult to prove a case of domestic violence. Like, ask the person that came on my channel. She's experienced it for years and years and years. But yeah, that's what he was doing in that Facebook video, which obviously Facebook wants me to have an account with. And I don't, because I don't want to watch bullshit like this, only if I can debunk it. I can tell my side of the story. Yeah, I can't move it along. All right, well, you get the idea. He wasn't a danger to women or children, but his 9 witnesses couldn't prove it. And also, like, I know they tried to use that in the Johnny Depp trial because they brought in Kate Moss, who's obviously like super famous. And I could never understand it because I wasn't even following the trial at the time, but I happened to be working with her at the time when she was going to go and do the evidence thing. Like, we were talking about it at the shoot. And I just thought it was really weird because I'm like, well, she had to go and say that he never pushed her down the stairs or something. And I'm like, but they went out to each other. They went out with each other when they were young. Like, she was well young then. I think she was still in her teens, or maybe like late teens. Not saying anything about the age problem. But yeah, I was like, you know, now he's like a proper alcoholic junkie as well. Like, that really affects moods. It really affects how men behave. It affects their mind, with the jealousy and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, I didn't really get it, but now I do, obviously, because I didn't know about the smear campaign and everything that was going on. All right, so I'm just going to go back to this. I didn't know that video wasn't going to play. That hasn't happened to me before. But yeah, I just wanted to show that I am looking at his side of the story, but it can be very easily debunked. So yeah, this article that I was reading before said that he was just pictured. This week, his interview with Kinahan. So this is this Irish, I think he's like a drugs dealer, kind of like big gang kind of, I don't know, he's like some big name in the drugs dealing world in Ireland. And he's apparently done an interview while out in Dubai ahead of his long-awaited extradition, because he's now, I think, locked up in Ireland. Made headlines as the 49-year-old told English he had not been an angel but was looking forward to getting home. So I'm just saying, like, if you look at the Keefe D trial that's happening right now, really, really similar story. Keefe D, big-time drug dealer, went on all these platforms, talked about how he because he saw other people talking about it. So he was like, I need to get in on this. I need to be making money out of this. So he went on all these platforms. He'd been outed as snitching already, talking to the feds, try to bring P. Diddy into it. When I say into it, he did a drive-by shooting on Tupac. That's it. That's what he done. But when he told the police the first time, he was in his understanding was that he couldn't be convicted based on that interview. As the years went on, he got braver and braver. He revealed more and more details. He wrote a book. He's now on trial for that murder. And there are channels basically taken up for him. And I'm just like, why? Why do you want to think someone like this is being set up by the feds? I don't get it. He set himself up. He was obviously guilty. There's too much details that he knows about what happened at the shooting that he couldn't possibly have known if he wasn't there. But anyway, I don't want to get distracted talking about that case. It's really, really good. He was pictured shaking hands with the wanted cartel boss in 2022 during a 3-hour interview for his podcast, but it was never broadcast because of legal reasons. Kinahan, the world's most wanted man, was flown back to Ireland on Sunday after spending years living in exile in Dubai. The alleged drugs kingpin of the Kinahan network is estimated to have assets worth more than £1 billion. So that's him in his little gilet. Scotsman James English has amassed a cult following through his chart-topping world's most controversial podcast, Anything Goes. So I had to, basically I couldn't get access to the mail, so I had to screenshot it. And yeah, that's their meeting. He looks like James Gandolfini from The Sopranos, I think. English is pictured shaking hands with the wanted cartel boss Daniel Kinahan in 2022. So this is probably when that relationship was going on. Great. I'm sure you're just a lovely guy, family guy, perfect dad. During a 3-hour interview for his podcast, but it was never broadcast because of legal reasons. However, away from the online world of English's success lies controversy and links to the criminal underworld. As a teenager, the promising footballer was on the books of Hibernian and credited the Scottish Premiership side for stopping him from being sent to a children's home. He openly admitted in an Instagram post in December last year that he didn't have dedication or the temperament to make it as a professional footballer. I had a great mum and dad, but I just didn't listen. And I wanted to fit in with certain individuals. And by doing that, I did bad things at times, he said. It's not until you're older that you realize how effed up that method of thinking actually is. Then we have, a decade later, English's close pal, Ewan Johnston, was gunned down in a gangland shooting. Suspected heroin and diazepam dealer Johnston, 26, was shot twice in the head while he was behind the wheel of his stationary Audi RS4 at red lights. Drive-by shooting. English posted a picture of himself with his arm around Johnston at the time of his death and called him a true gentleman. David Scott was jailed in 2018 for life and ordered to serve a minimum of 22 years after being convicted of Johnston's cold-blooded murder. English was also said to be close friends with notorious ex-gangster Darren G until a public falling out. G, who served 12 years behind bars for organising the 2004 murder in Liverpool. This is crazy because I just found this out today. Claimed he had been used by English to boost his YouTube numbers after appearing on his podcast and called him a fat something house during the online row. English later offered to fight G in a £250,000 boxing match for charity. The pair never met in the ring. So there's another picture of him with Kerry Katona. So the last bit of my little deep dive tonight, because, I looked it all up. So we've done the Darbo. Yeah, I just thought, to me, that looked like classic Darbo techniques he was using there. So before I go, I'm going to finish with, so I know some people I've made a couple of videos about Sean Atwood, so I do know a little bit about this what do you call it, like ex-prison, ex-convicts, like reformed criminal, like they're supposed to be doing, like, we're reformed now and we're exposing corruption, we're exposing real crime on our channels, and then people come after us when we get found out doing stuff we shouldn't be doing. I'm just having a look at these videos on the side, see what they're saying. Right, nothing really about him, you see. Very, very little coverage it's getting. Right, so yeah, there was this channel called Chancer, yeah. So he had already made videos about Sean Atwood and the whole thing with the Daddygate thing. And so I found out, because I was searching for it, I was like, what's this beef about Darren G? And so he'd made 2 videos. One of them has been deleted off his channel because he kept getting copyright strikes. So I think this is why he probably stopped making videos, because this is what kept happening to channels like this. They would use clips from people like Sean Atwood and Darren G's videos, and then, like, explain things, and then they would copyright claim them. So the videos had to be deleted and then try and get their channels taken down, which is obviously within their rights. Well, it's kind of, I think they call it like DNC claim. So it's a bit iffy, because really it's supposed to be legally it falls under fair use, but you don't get the opportunity with YouTube to explain that. They don't give you, I mean, you can appeal it, but then if the person's not going to play fair, there's not much you can do about it. So yeah, he stopped making videos, but it just so happened he'd made a video about this in 2021, and that's during lockdown. And he said it was called Podcast Wars, and he said Darren G, James English, and Marvin Herbert continue the war of words. Things get nasty. Innocent people get dragged into the YouTube beef. So previous video on the Great Podcast War of 2021, this one has gone. He also said James English's most recent video is deleted. Marvin Herbert's video has been deleted as well. And then there was Darren G's Twitter and this channel, The Fuse UK. So they've turned into a boxing channel now. I think it's like bare knuckle fighting. So there's no sign of it on there, because their oldest video is from 4 years ago now, so they must have deleted it as well. So basically what he says, he's got a really lovely Scottish accent. He says that Darren G was posting stuff on Twitter, which was a picture of, that he said he got sent, of a woman that had been beaten up by James English. So a victim. So that's just I'm not going to play the whole thing, but let me get it to a good point. Right.
Wishes he didn't have to do that, but he has obviously felt the need to address things. And the reason for that is that Darren G has made a tweet, and this tweet's been doing the rounds for a few hours, really. I've edited it for privacy reasons.
So Darren G had posted this picture and said, factual tweet, this girl is Laura Simpson. She was beaten black and blue by her ex-boyfriend, James English. Okay? A monster with a past for harming... I can't read what it says. But anyway, it turns out this was a fake picture. Well, it wasn't actually his ex-girlfriend. But that's not the end of the story.
For the person who's photographed, obviously not everyone wants to be in a video, and I really don't think this woman does, but it shows a woman who has facial injuries consistent with domestic violence, and it falsely names this woman as an ex-partner of James English, suggesting that James English did this to the woman. In fact, it clearly states that James English did this to the woman. This person is not James English's partner though, or ex-partner, and her injuries are not the result of James English. In fact, the article involving this girl and what happened to her, which was domestic violence, can be found online, and the perpetrator of the abuse is named and photographed in that article. Now, this lady, or someone claiming to be her at least, has come forward. She was presumably alerted by somebody who knows her and who also follows Darren G on Twitter, because he does have over 20,000 followers. She's been told that he's using her image, and she's asked people to report Darren G's account for pushing false information related to her photos. James English, as I say, has done a video on this now, stating that the information in that tweet is false, that Darren G is a vile man, and that the woman in the photos has come forward. Now, Darren G has retracted his tweet, and he confirms that he was fooled by somebody. In his words, he was had and fell for a rat trick. However, he is not being apologetic in the slightest and is still maintaining that he has been betrayed by James English. Now, from what I can tell, this false information was sent to Darren by one of his followers on Instagram, whose Instagram account now appears to be gone. Darren put a clip of him scrolling through the message in his Instagram inbox. I saw a clip of this initially on the YouTube channel, The Fuse UK. So shout out to them. They are quite often the first to upload this kind of content onto YouTube, and it does prove very handy. So I'll put a link to The Fuse UK in the description. You can go and check them out.
Like I said, it's just boxing videos on there now.
They do have a lot of content and often upload live streams and things like that Darren's put out on his Instagram. So
that's why it's so hard to find out about this stuff as well, because, you know, this was all going on 4 years ago, and the people that are watching his channel now, like, it's obviously grown to like 800,000. Not one of them was going to know about this. No one's going to bother to bring this up now, apart from me.
That clip showed that somebody had got in touch with Darren G, claiming to be the brother of this woman and saying things about James English and passing these photos on. Obviously, the person who sent them can be completely discounted as a hoaxer. We know the images are not who the person claims they are of, and we know they're nothing to do with James English, and both Darren G and James English have confirmed this. Darren should have verified the information that was coming through to him, but what interests me is who actually sent that fake information to Darren in the first place and why. That's what I'd like to know, and we'll probably never get to know. As I say, this account that appears to have sent the information to Darren G, it looks as if it's now gone off Instagram. So things are getting a bit messy. The woman in the photos is not happy at all, from what I can see, and she appears to say that she's already contacted the police regarding the fact that Darren G posted this. So I don't know where that's going to end up, but if the police are now involved, this just sounds like needless headaches for everyone involved, especially the woman. This is a real person who's got dragged into an unrelated beef here, so let's just hope that it hasn't caused her too much anxiety. It's amazing how you can just wake up one day, be going about your business, and suddenly find yourself dragged into a YouTube beef. Wherever this goes next, who the hell knows? I'll keep you updated anyway if there's anything else interesting that happens regarding this. Now I'm just going to jump in here with another cut. Basically, Marvin has put out a video today.
So Marvin Herbert has also been on James English's podcast. So another thing that I've read about James English is that he helps people with their addictions. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've also heard that about Jed Wallace, and I don't know what it means, because the only person that can help someone with their addiction is themselves.
In which he responds to Darren G. He does mention a bit about Sean Atwood as well. That's maybe something for another video. Marvin did say about Sean Atwood that he's got evidence that Mr. Atwood was never in a maximum security prison. So I thought that was very interesting, and that's something that needs to be looked into a bit more.
Oh, I think that's very interesting as well, because we was actually talking about it the other day.
If Marvin is listening,
I think the biggest takeaway from all of these videos is you cannot believe anything that comes out of any of these guys' mouth. Like, they literally just make everything up, it looks like.
to this, then I would ask him to release that evidence, because that is something that I think the public would like to see. But keeping things in line with the theme of this video, Marvin did respond to Darren G, challenging Darren to explain what it is that he does to help people and who he has actually helped. Marvin went on to let the audience know about multiple good causes that he works for, and the video was mostly Marvin proving that he is reformed and that he's no longer involved in crime. I'll put a link to his video and to all the other videos that I've talked about today down in the description. Marvin also says that we should take a look at the people who are trying to chop him down, a reference to Darren G, obviously.
People will try and chop me down and shoot me down and slander me and sling mud. But the ones that are slinging mud, you've got to look closely at them. Look closely at them. See where they've been. See what people are saying about them.
So I'd imagine that this podcast war, as we're calling it, is going to continue on for a little bit. That was pretty much the gist of Marvin's video, though. He didn't go in guns blazing or anything like that. James English has also since released this statement, saying that as soon as you start doing well for yourself, people start digging into your past as if you're hiding from it. This is a pattern I've seen time and again with other people who get successful. He says that he's never hidden from his past and that he never will hide from his past. He refers to battling with addiction as well as being in prison and losing people to murder. And he ends by saying that he plans to tell his own story and set the record straight on a few things, which I think sounds like a good way to handle this situation. I know a lot of people would be tuning in to watch that. It could turn a negative into a positive. So we'll see how things go with that. Now, Darren G has actually responded as well, so I'll put that in here too. He's still extremely annoyed. He is stating effectively that Marvin and James have tried to set him up, that they are in discussions with other people talking about how to bring Darren G down effectively or how to set him up. Darren refers to the Irish connection. I'm not sure what this is, to be honest. I think it refers to potentially organised criminals, from what I can gather, but I will just put in some of Darren's comments here as well.
What you've got is Marvin being funded by this same Irish chap who's supporting his podcast and everything about it. He's also supporting James English, who went and had a meeting with him 2 weeks ago in Dubai. And that meeting was about sabotaging me and putting me on my fucking knees because they didn't like the way it was flowing. Why?
Crazy he made this in 2021.
Because of some little shithead years ago. That's the Irish angle, because of some little rat years ago. This Marvin, this James English, have been trying to whip me up and wreck my credibility for the past 3 months. They've been trying to get me on some sort of podcast with this Marvin, so this Marvin can have his angle, and the angle's coming from the Irish. It's bottom line.
Who really knows, to be honest, at this stage? It has been interesting to watch, though, so far, anyway.
Right, so just adds another little bit of interest to the story. So basically the takeaway from that was someone sent a photo. Yeah, it was fake, but still just a bit random, really, isn't it? Like he said, he would like to know who it was. And then in 2021, that guy says, Darren G I'm talking about, says that an Irish guy living in Dubai sorry, something just popped up on my screen. An Irish guy living in Dubai is paying for his and Marvin Herbert's podcast, and they're trying to set him up to do an interview. Here we are in 2026, and it's in the Mail. It's in the Mail online. How podcaster James English went from dating Kerry Katona to interviewing Daniel Kinahan, who just happens to be an Irish criminal that was living in Dubai. Look, he's the podcaster who has amassed 500 million views and interviewed crime lord Daniel Kinahan in a world exclusive before he was extradited from Dubai. Okay, that's all I've got for you tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you soon. Bye.